Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 72 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. So there is a strange thing that happens as we achieve more results or we make progress, and that is we plateau. We stop getting excited or engaged or driven by what we're doing, and we start to coast. And when we start to coast, things do become easier. But we also feel this sense of unease, and we're not sure that we're utilizing our time and the privilege of everything that we've accomplished so far. And we begin to wonder if we are going to stop short of our potential. We wonder if we've lost our drive or motivation, and we wonder what is next. And so the other day I was talking to someone about this idea of plateauing. She had just recently achieved some pretty big milestones in her career, things that she had been working really hard to achieve for a very long time. With it, however, came a sense of unease and some bad habits that had crept in. And when we've worked so hard and so long, we get tired and we want to rest. And all of that is completely healthy. It's completely normal. It's also healthy and normal to evaluate after a big climb. What do you now need to address? And we start to ask questions like, what parts of myself have I been ignoring? This is often where clients find me when they are in a point of inflection and reflection, wondering what do they need to take care of in order for them to continue to have results, even though they don't want to work maybe the same way they have, and they want to attend to things that they have been ignoring. For example, like your personal life is a very common thing that always goes at the expense of work. And so in this process, we also start losing this sense of this person that had drive. And we think to ourselves, maybe we should want to achieve more in our careers, but we don't. We can also think maybe we should exercise or stop overeating, but we don't. We think maybe we should be more proactive in our work life, but we're not. And maybe we should start that project around the house, but we don't. Maybe we should stop being so stressed about everything that is happening in the world, but we're not. And so people come to me with this long list of shoulds, and my work often involves sifting through the latent desires, the false desires, and the life-changing ones to identify what gets turned into a must and what happens now. And this is such a simple concept, and much of what I share is fairly simple. I'm not inventing anything new. I heard this concept, shoulds to musts, from Tony Robbins, and I'm sure this concept has been around for a very long time. But the difference is actually understanding what changes when you change. And we think that motivation is something that is extrinsic. We think that motivation around money or appearance or what people think or say or do is the most important thing to have, which is why we give ourselves lots of incentives that are extrinsic. Promotions, for example, are more money, and they are a title change. When you think of revenue goals, number of clients, or certain business targets, they are numbers that we can count. Buying physical objects, having fancy homes or cars or clothes are very much tangible, and they are seen. When you think of accolades or awards from other people, these are also very much something that we can show and we can point out. Yet, we often tire of all of these kinds of rewards very quickly. We are always searching for the next thing to motivate us when it comes to extrinsic rewards. This is why we don't make the change we want to make next when it's solely focused on extrinsic rewards. What if you don't have an extrinsic reward that really motivates you because you have all these things already? What if you already feel sufficient in all of these areas? You don't feel like anything is lacking. So some people keep going after more money or less weight or more titles or more things and find that there's never an end. Others, and this might be you, start wondering if that's all there is. And if so, begin to think, I don't really want more of this in my life right now. What do you want more of? If we want to feel like we are still growing, developing, or creating interest and joy in our lives, we'll need another reason to do the things you know you should do, but you don't. You need intrinsic motivation. It's not your fault that this hasn't been shared with you as much as extrinsic motivation has. It's likely due to how other people around you have been successful or what your culture, family, or society has told you is the way to happiness. Yet if you're here now thinking about how much you want to find more security, peace, joy, calm, freedom, time, or energy, then what you're really after is something that's found in the world within us, in this world behind our eyes instead of in front of our eyes. When I first made some big changes in my life to pivot my work, it was because of a deep sense of urgency that life was short. I wasn't living into the big P. And what is that big P? It was my potential, the P. It was because I experienced the grief that comes with death that I saw how my own life was a big question mark. And sometimes you're going to feel like your life doesn't look like the way you thought it would, and you have no idea what you want to do next. You feel like it's so uncertain and you've lost your firm footing because you don't have a North Star to guide you. And if all the things that used to matter don't matter anymore, what do you care about and who are you really? And what I want you to know is that when all of these things are lost, you have this opportunity to discover something completely different. This is this paradox and this duality that I think is completely beautiful and has changed my life and the life of those that I've worked with. I'm not saying that you won't feel grief or confusion, discomfort, and this immense sense of not knowing when you're on this path of change or discovery. It's not that you won't feel this weight of it all, but what I am saying is that these breakdowns, or what feels like breakdowns, often come before this massive breakthrough. And so how do you ensure that there is a breakthrough? Though a lot of times we get to the edge of this breakdown and we never get to the other side with a breakthrough. How do we make sure that things actually change and that you suffer less and you create more wisdom through this experience? And when I say experience, it's because we have to actually live this into our life. That is our most important work, is not just what goes on between our two ears and our head. It's the way we live and experience this life. And you do that by coming back to your why. Why are you unhappy or feeling unmotivated right now? Why do you want to do this thing? Why do you want to change those habits? What is your reason that is bigger than the discomfort that you will experience? And when I first made the decision to become a coach, I made a very clear declaration to the universe and to myself that this was not about the money. I remember I was at the grounds of the Columbia residence. This was at Columbia University, but we were doing a in-residence training outside of New York City. And I remember just having this moment as I was walking to dinner and I was outside, and I had just kind of finished this day full of growth and learning. And I just knew at that point, it had been this long journey of even figuring out what it was that I wanted to next, how I wanted to live my life, how do I want to stop overworking, how did I want to be healthier and take care of myself, how do I have time for my family? It was so many things. And in the moment of coming to this coaching certification, I remember after that day, walking and looking up and knowing through all of that, the high and the low emotions. And I was at this place where I was calm, I was still, and it was just so clear that this is something that I would do always. And it wouldn't be about the money, and it would be because it was something I just felt so deeply. And that I remember that I looked up at the night sky and said that in my mind out loud, that this was something that was so important to me to do that I would never let it go. And I would do whatever it took to ensure that my coaching work would be supported. And I know that when I say never let it go, it's not about this one thing in the one way, but this idea of what it was, which was to serve, which was to contribute, which was a way of adding value and bringing some joy and peace into this world. And I knew I would do whatever it took to ensure that my coaching work would always be supported. And I've never felt conviction that deep prior to then. I used to feel like conviction was this thing that other people had. I had believed that conviction came from people who were mad or angry or really competitive. And I didn't realize that there's also conviction that comes with a great amount of peace, joy, and determination. Conviction in what you want to do and why you want to do it can feel incredibly liberating. And I've started to understand that power is very different for different folks. And there is a way for you to have power that is not forceful, but can be extremely powerful. And it doesn't have to be aggressive, yet it is cutting through the noise. There's still ways to say things and to be completely direct and honest and truthful that compels people to action, that inspires people to move. And you don't have to change who you are and lose your sense of ethics. So this is one of the reasons why having integrity between the things we want to do and the things that we actually do in our lives matters. And it matters a lot. And when you have a hard time starting a project or reaching out to someone who you know could help you and taking that first step, the thing you know you should do, the solution is to discover your why. And how do we think about our why? It is what gets you out of bed when you're tired. It's what you want to be remembered for next year. It's who you want to show up as in the world. I often coach people on the simple act of getting started on a big goal. The thing that will often be the most rewarding is the most difficult. And I find that so interesting. If you look at all the things that you do in a day, taking that first step and then the next step at this one thing you're avoiding is likely the one thing you're going to remember the most next year. It's likely the one thing that will end up on your resume, your list of accomplishments, the thing that you think, oh my goodness, look at how far I've come in this one area. Why? Because it was difficult, it was hard, and it was challenging. And it is likely the one thing that will improve your mental, physical, and emotional health. Why? Because if it was so easy to do mentally, physically, emotionally, you would have done it already. So you can take all of the energy that you're using on a daily basis, shuffling through life, not making any meaningful progress, and do one thing today that you know you should do. One thing today that you have not done before. One thing today that will define who you will be because you're acting from a place of future possibility instead of a known past. And instead of saying should, you're going to say, this is the one thing I must do today in order for me to have that infinite future possibility. No matter what happens, this is what I must do. So there's always a price to pay for the thing you want. There's always a price to pay for the thing you want. And the difference between those who have and are living into their purpose and those who keep making excuses is the willingness to pay that price. I am known for, even when I was a kid, asking questions. And what I do really well during coaching is asking really powerful questions. And I often know, and I knew this just by my experience in life, that I didn't ask the questions that I wanted to ask of people. And later on, they would say, how come you didn't say that thing? How come you didn't ask me that thing? I would have that moments of thinking, well, I thought it was all taken care of. It was all good. And that someone else was going to handle it. Well, I'm telling you now that this is one of the secrets to the universe. You are now in charge. It is not going to be handled. People are not going to ask that question. You are the one person between you and that person having the thing, doing the thing, coming up with this thing, and doing it in the way that it should be done and could be done. I say this because now I know, and I used to think that the power was in someone else. The power was in this institution. The power was in this company. The power was in someone else's authority. Yet if you have this thought and it comes into your mind and you're starting to understand what I'm saying here, what you'll realize is that your words are potent. Your actions are potent. The way that you deliver the message, the way that you carry the message, the way that you bring all the things that you know into this world becomes your lived experience. And that is also something I learned through coaching so many people, is that all it took was one person, me, to ask them some powerful questions, to make some shifts for them in their life that they hadn't seen before, and suddenly everything changes. Everything changes from one thing. And I've had clients that have said to me, when you ask me that one question, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I think about it in all these areas of my life. It changes how I show up in the world. And I know that a lot of times those are questions that in my head I'm thinking, I might be risking the relationship here. I might be saying something that might be a little too far here, but I know that it will serve them. And because I know that I will serve them, I'm going to say the thing. And it's not my job to hold things back that I know will serve people. And so this is also the difference from you showing up through discomfort. What are you willing to risk? What are you willing to risk? So for me, the price I'm willing to pay is to risk the relationship, knowing that I'm going to serve someone. And for you, the price you might have to be paying is to actually reach out and ask a question of someone. Ask for help in this thing that you're looking to do. Maybe take the first step that you know that you've been putting off. And what is that one thing? So if you start to make it a must, it changes it to a priority. I must feed my kids. That's a non-negotiable in my life. It's not like I should feed my kids. It's a must. And there is a very strong reason and why behind feeding my kids. And it is something that I feel deep conviction behind. And I would work pretty much any job or do almost anything to make sure that they are taken care of, that my family is okay. And this is what I mean about a must. If you're struggling to think like, well, what is a must in my life? You can think about other areas in your life where you have that sense of conviction and borrow that belief. So this is my willingness to pay that price. You don't feel that way for a should. You don't feel that way about that thing that you're not doing. And how do I know that? Because you're not doing it. So my challenge to you this week is to actually take a should and turn it into a must. Find one thing that is actually meaningful to you. Gives you maybe a bit of discomfort to take that first step. You are uncertain about what the future looks like and how it's all going to work out. All of these things, completely normal. Dig deep now into that why until you feel that it's a must. That's as strong as some of the other musts that you have in your life, and really dig in and do the comparison. Even if it feels like a fairly mundane or a really simple task that you're avoiding, you can see that we lose trust in ourselves. We lose integrity, and our abilities start to erode when we don't do the things that we should do. It's a muscle, guys. It is a muscle that we are building, and it is something that we practice day in and day out. If we can't turn it into a must, then you take a hard look at it to see if it's really something that needs to be a priority right now. And you can ask yourself, what is the price I must be willing to pay for this? And maybe the price to pay for your next promotion, or to hit a revenue goal, or to lead a team with excellence, is the willingness to wade through uncertainty, to figure out how to do this project, to sell, to lead, and to have this sense of leadership in your life. Maybe the price to pay for your healthy body is to move your body, to eat for fuel. Maybe the price to pay for having a high quality relationship is to think about it as the most important thing in your life and give it real time and attention. There is always a price to pay, and that is a good thing. And the question now is, am I willing to pay it? And I want to leave you with this thought, which has helped me when I don't want to get started on a thing, which is this: don't give up. Don't give in to the thoughts of fear or uncertainty or not knowing exactly what or how, act as if you did know how. And just decide that your why is more important than a little bit of discomfort or uncertainty in this moment. And that uncertainty and that discomfort will pass once you've done it. So you are only one step away today from being the person and living the life you must live. So if this topic resonates with you and you want to see transformational results in your life, you will love coaching. Getting coached consistently is the spark that lights that fire of inspiration so that you make the changes you're looking to make. And it is the first step in creating clarity, making massive shifts, and moving obstacles out of your way again and again and again so you can move forward in all the areas of your life, personally and professionally. So you can go to www.mayemson.com/contact to learn more. That's it, my friends, for this week. I hope you have an amazing one. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.